Hey everybody, welcome back to Escape Reality Star Wars Talk. Sorry, we were talking about something entirely different while we were talking Dragon Age and some jokes there. I'm your host Caleb.
Hi, I'm Seth. I talk Star Wars with this man.
I guess speaking of Dragon Age, we can talk about what we've been up to this week. I've been playing Dragon Age, of course. I've been enjoying the Velguard. It's a lot of fun. I've also been replaying Origins for the channel, and that's been fun. I talked about it a little bit last week, but now we're really into the depths of it with Origins, because now we're in the actual, what I would call Act 1 of the game, because I played all of the prologues, even though I only stuck with one character for the rest of the gameplay. It's just, I made each prologue and each different origin you can do, because there's 6 different potential backgrounds you can choose from, and so I played out all 6 of them, with the last one being the one that I stuck with, which is my usual go-to for Origins. It's the Daily Shelf Rogue. That's usually my main in Dragon Age Origins. Although my first main ever was the Human Noble, because and he was a warrior, because it's warrior, rogue, mage are the classes in Dragon Age.
So I guess sort of on the topic of Dragon Age, I do remember one of the a long time ago,
in a galaxy far, far away. Like it's a Star Wars podcast.
Yeah, that was,
you set yourself up there.
I know. I do remember it was a Halloween like one shot special type thing. And Keontae was running it, and all of us had like we'd made a bunch of different characters for if people wanted to like pick things.
Yeah, so basically a bunch of pre-mades ready for the night, yeah.
And Nick, a friend of ours, picked a character who was like absurdly like offensive to people who did not have the ability to cast magic.
So kind of who did not have the ability to cast. So he was anti-mage.
Yeah.
Okay. That's kind of the opposite of how Dragon Age works. Usually it's you're anti-mage. So you're not anti-mage. Well, that's not true. You can say fuck the Templars as Matt does in his current gameplay. Oh.
I remember playing a rogue that night. Tony Blink is like a tiefling, inquisitive, hard-boiled detective type, right? And so when that character died, I was like, well, I'm not surprised, but still.
Yeah. Speaking of, I guess, Keontae's games, so I finally decided in my downtime between when I'm not making videos, I'm playing Pathfinder Kingmaker finally.
Oh yeah?
Because I've had it for a long time. I've had Pathfinder Kingmaker forever, and I was one of the people who kickstarted the Wrath of the Righteous, so I have Wrath of the Righteous as well.
Are you enjoying it?
I am. So the reason I say within the conversation of Keontae games, because that was one of my first tabletop games, was playing Keontae's Pathfinder game. Can't play a gunslinger. What the fuck, Kingmaker?
Damn it.
What the fuck, Kingmaker?
Was this before?
Well, no, because Gunslinger exists. I think it's just that the story doesn't really fit. Maybe doesn't fit well with gunslingers involved. I don't know. Maybe it's like I would think there's a reason probably behind it. Plus, they had to make a choice. They had to draw the line somewhere on core classes because they do have a good amount of options in Kingmaker. There are a lot of options for characters that you can make. But my first character in a Pathfinder game was Joe the Gunslinger. And he was supposed to be based off of Clint Eastwood's The Man with No Name sort of idea. So, and of course, Joe is one of the names that like fans of those films have given Clint Eastwood's character. So that's why I went with Joe as his name. And so it was a dwarven gunslinger. But because I couldn't play him, I played my second character. That was, I made Harry the Wizard. And I made him I think this fits, Arcanist Bomber.
Okay, yeah.
As like the like subclass or whatever it's called in Pathfinder. Because when you pick your class at the beginning, you pick your archetype. Archetype, that's what they're called.
Yeah.
So you pick your archetype when you make your character in Kingmaker.
Sorry, I'm laughing because
You know some stuff about Harry and some of the wild shenanigans that Harry caused.
Yeah. And I have some information for you about the consequences of that.
Well, I know he's dead.
Yeah.
I know he died because I had to drop the game. So, but I know he basically became like a sort of semi-main villain.
Do you know do you know how he died?
Did he blow up?
No, I threw him out a window and shot him.
But yeah, I know he became a semi-main villain because so Joe was neutral, but because of like certain choices that I made, because I was not a great player during that time. I was learning how to be a player at that time. So I will admit that I made some mistakes as a player, and so I can call myself out on those. I made some rather poor decisions where I made Joe do things that in hindsight I'm like, that's not what I really wanted Joe to do, but that's what I did. Where like flashback stuff and like how he treated Harry. I didn't mean to do it that way, but that's how it was kind of perceived. So it was a little bit of, I think, misconception on Keontae's part of what I was trying to do, but also not great on my end of how I ran it either. And so Joe kind of started to lean more towards chaotic neutral when I kind of wanted him to stay true neutral, really. Because I saw him kind of as like a bounty hunter, like when he, once again, like the man with no name. He was a bounty hunter who comes in, does a job. That's his thing.
Yeah.
Which I think is a true neutral alignment. I think really, like I would argue Clint Eastwood's man with no name character is a true neutral character, maybe lawful neutral, depending on
that, yeah.
depending on the movie,
Because
technically, while fans think it's the same character, they are technically three different characters in those films.
One of them is called Joe, and another one is called Blondie for some reason.
Well, none of them have real names.
Yes. Like, they're just called that by people.
Because they're the man with no name. They're all the man with no name.
Also, Unforgiven is Clint Eastwood, the actor, is like, oh, that's kind of where I see that, the end of that story.
Even though Unforgiven's a fourth film then, and then it's no longer a trilogy.
Yeah.
Because it's the Fistful of Dollars trilogy is what... how people usually look at those. Even though, once again... none of those films are connected in any way other than naming for two of them out of the three. Because it's a Fistful of Dollars for a few dollars more than The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Yeah. And The Good and the Bad, the Ugly, once again, doesn't share the name, yet is included as part of this trilogy. So, yeah. But yes, so I made Harry, who is a... that one was an intentionally chaotic, evil character. And once again, I will admit that I probably played Harry poorly. Because once again, I misunderstood things because I wasn't quite as knowledgeable as I am now about how to play a character as a player in a tabletop setting. Like, I now know how to play a chaotic, evil character. Back then, no. I was definitely what a lot of horror stories of the... That's what my character would do. I was definitely in that.
Yeah, you broke a train. I think that was like 1 or 2 sessions before I joined, actually.
Yeah, so like...
I know, because I had to conduct police interviews after that.
So
they're
yeah.
like, yeah, we had a dwarf here. We don't know where he went.
Yeah, that's right, because, yeah, we were at a city, and, yeah. And so, I think I blew up a school too, if I remember correctly, the wizard school. If I remember correctly, it's been so long though.
I don't know how many wizard schools there are, but it's possible you blew up at least one of them.
That's what I think happened. It's been years, but yeah, I was that kind of player, and I definitely regret how I played that, but I've learned since then. I think that's the good part, is if you can come out of that learning, then it's not as big of a deal that it happened. And also Keontae put up with it. So, like, I mean, he never, like, any...
I love that, man. He puts up with a lot.
And he did talk to me, like, a couple times, and I think I did set back a little bit on some of, like, how I had Harry play out. Like, so I did... It was less than what it was before. But, and so I learned. And I think that's the important thing, is, like, if even if you make that mistake and you do it's what my character would do, if you can come out of that knowing, okay, I shouldn't do this, I shouldn't do that, then I think a lesson was learned, and that's what matters.
I am curious, because I've been playing like RPGs and stuff with you for quite a while now. So between now and back when I started with you, has that changed or not?
Not really, but also you're not like I would say I would also say you've never been like an RPG horror story like scenario, right? Like, you're not that type of player. Like, I think you came into them for the most part knowing how etiquette works in RPGs.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
I will jump out of Windows though. You do need.
But I am playing Pathfinder Kingmaker as an evil
Mm-hmm.
campaign, so I'm playing Harry
Alright.
as evil. So it's because you can play actually, because the prologue basically sets up what team you have
Mm-hmm.
based on like choices you make in the tutorial. Because basically the tutorial happens and you get the palace that you're at gets attacked, and then you have a team, and based on how you interact, like, oh, do you steal the coffers from the nobles, because you're like, oh, that I should take that because I deserve to have it, or are you taking it to make sure it's safe from the bandits attacking? And so you can quantify that as a good action or a bad action depending on how you role play it. And so, and then based on that decides your team as well, because there's like there's 7 different other characters that show up, and so basically they pick sides, and it's basically a team versus team to get through the campaign, and it's whatever. So the other guy is leading the good team, although he's honestly worse than me, and might be a spy for the bad guys, but also he tried to frame you as the spy for the bad guys. So, and of course, because I played evil, everybody's like, well, it's kind of suspicious, so we don't know who to trust. But I think even if I picked good, they would have been like,
all right.
We just met you, though, so...
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I've been up to.
Well, for me, apart from... we watched The Quick and the Dead this week.
Yeah, that happened, too. Yep, I was going to let you have that.
So, yeah, I'm glad that they got to see The Quick and the Dead. It's a very fun film.
And they liked it more than because I was curious how like Britt would react to it, because I don't see her as somebody who watches westerns.
Oars are in the back. Motherfucker.
So, but also I think The Quick and the Dead is different than your traditional western, which is what makes it so good. Like, it keeps a lot of the tropes of a typical western, but it also flips them a little bit, because you have. Your main character is a woman gunslinger. Right off the bat, that's different than most traditional westerns, because you have Sharon Stone, who is awesome in that film, by the way. Honestly, everybody in that film...
The cast in that film is great.
Everybody in that film is so good. I mean, people who are part of that have been watching this podcast for a long time already know how I feel about Quick and the Dead, because... back when I was with Mopcast Network, that was one of the films we reviewed. So, and that was in the season 2 days of this. So back when we were at the studio. So I think they know how I feel for the most part. If you're new here, you don't. I like the film. It's a lot. It's a good western. It's a good cast.
Yeah.
It's
Gene Hackman is a great villain,
as always.
Yeah.
Russell Crowe.
Russell Crowe and Leo are great.
Early Russell Crowe and Leo, by the way. This is...
I was gonna call them...
because this is...
supporting cast members, I think.
They're main. I would argue Russell Crowe especially is main. Leo, you could say secondary.
Yeah.
But even then, like, really good. But it's also an ensemble movie, so there really isn't really a secondary cast. It's really like he's part of the ensemble. Leo's part of the main ensemble, because it's a shootout contest movie, and then you get to know each of the main characters of that as well. And then they do like the thing where it's like, all right, we're gonna get rid of all the secondary background ones that we don't give backstories to, and we'll do a montage to get rid of them quickly from the movie.
Spotted Horse cannot be killed by a bullet.
Which I was impressed still with the fact that Spotted Horse is played by an actual Native American actor. Because this is a film from the 90s. They very easily could have done what films in the 90s did, which is not cast a Native American in a Native American role. But we learned a little behind the scenes of like, oh, they actually unfortunately there was a tragedy where somebody died. I think it was in between days, though. It wasn't like somebody on the set.
I don't know if, because it was worded really poorly in, I think, the article you were reading, it's someone either died on set or in between.
And I think it was like while filming.
Yeah.
Like I don't think it was like on set. I think they mean when they said while filming, they meant like during
Yeah.
the timing of filming.
No, they killed someone.
No, I think that wouldn't. But anyways, so but they let him do his. They respected him and let Spotted Horse's actor do like his rituals, as part of like, hey, bring the crew together. And yeah, they let him lead it, and they had a little moment, and that was nice hearing about. And then on top of that, you like you said, you got Leo, you got Russell Crowe, you got Gene Hackman, you got Sharon Stone, you've got I just forgot his name. You got Keith David, but also
Oh yeah, I forgot Keith David.
Keith David's great. And then you got
God, there's a bunch of really good actors.
I'm trying to remember his name. I'm so mad I can't think of it right now. All I can think of is his character from Alien, Bishop. He's Ace in it.
Oh, okay. I know mentally
Lance Henriksen. Yeah. Lance Henriksen's also in it. He's great in it too. I like Ace.
Yeah.
Honestly, there's not a lot of characters to not like, and then the characters you don't like, you're not supposed to like.
Yeah.
Like, it's a case of, oh, I'm supposed to hate these people because they're fucking bastards.
Mm-hmm. It's very clear who's...
Yeah, they make it very clear who the good guys and bad guys are.
Yeah.
But that's, I think while a lot of Westerns can lean into the gray area, the best Westerns do make it clear who the good guys and bad guys are.
Yep.
Like, even, like, Red Dead Redemption games make it clear who the good guys and bad guys are. Even if there's a lot of gray area in those games, they still make it clear of, these are the bad guys, you're the good guy, if you're playing it that way.
Mm-hmm.
And then, here's some other good guys that you should be caring about as you're playing as either Arthur or John. So, like...
And that brief instance is Jack,
Yeah.
who has a crazy life once the game's end.
Yep, because, I sent you that video, right?
Yeah.
Where they're like...
Yeah, I figured it.
Where
I
it's
was like... Because the end of that game, I'm like, okay, so it's like 1911. The year is 1914 at the end of that game.
And then I think it's canon that he lives all the way until the 80s or the 90s or something like that. So, like, or it's like the 80s. I think the 80s. So, like, Jack had a life. He got to see, like, some of the biggest moments in history. For American history, I should say.
God, just the ending of the first Red Dead Redemption. Are you Edgar Ross? What's it to ya? I'm pretty sure you killed my dad, so I'm here for it. I'm here for revenge. He's like...
1992 is his official. So, yeah, he saw...
It's a lot.
Yep. I forget how we got that canon date for... There's a headstone somewhere, I think, in something.
Probably in, like... I don't know. It would make sense for it to be in, like, a GTA game. Assuming...
Yeah. Which also then arguably doesn't mean it's canon, because...
yeah.
They don't really connect to each other 100%, Red Dead and GTA. Like, that's kind of the thing that Rockstar has made clear, is that, oh, that doesn't exactly mean anything. That's just an Easter egg, but also, like, fans speculate, well, until we get proven otherwise, well, this person doesn't provide the source, but I know there is a source somewhere of a year. So, but yeah, I mean, pretty much sees everything, and then, like he got to see Pearl, like, he was around when Pearl Harbor happened. And he had just finished fighting World War I. And going through the Great Depression. And probably the Dust Bowl, if we're going to be honest, because he was probably still living in the West. So he probably went through the Dust Bowl.
God. I think it really would be fun. Like, I know we can't.
It wouldn't be Red Dead anymore.
It wouldn't be Red Dead anymore, but it would be nice
to have a Jack game.
To have a Jack game.
A Jack game would be interesting, but once again, yeah, like it just wouldn't be a Red Dead game. I don't know what you would call it, because it's not a GTA game either, and I wouldn't want it to be a GTA game. Like I wouldn't want it to be that. But I would
have so many like interesting opportunities with Jack's life.
I could see it in the vein of like a Mafia game,
mm-hmm.
where you just kind of go through like story by story beats.
Yeah.
And keep semi-open world. If I was to do a Jack game, a Jack Marston video game, I would style it like Mafia 1 and 2, where it would be semi-open world, but not in the levels of Red Dead or GTA open world, where it's open world, but you're mostly focused on just telling the story. And then maybe we have an open world segment as like in the menus, you can do that after you've beaten the game. But like, it would be more LA Noire, I guess. Because LA Noire is that. LA Noire is a semi-open world game, but not truly open world.
Yeah.
Where...
Matter of fact, Jack is alive at the time of LA Noire.
But yeah, so I would do it in that vein. Which, once again, LA Noire is not canon to the same universe. Because, once again, they actually have an LA off the bat. That's the immediate thing. But I would do it in that style vein, the Mafia 1, 2, and LA Noire style, where it's semi-open world, but you're really just trying to tell a good story. And maybe we do, like, cut-aheads, like, where we just see different major points in Jack's life. And maybe we have a theme going on. We tell, like, maybe there is a main, like, antagonist that makes it through all those events. But maybe it's just a bio piece of Jack Marston, because it's just a slice of life game, right? With crime elements, like it's a crime game.
I imagine that Jack would actually really fucking hate having to get involved in crime again.
But I would imagine it probably would be a crime game still, like so it would be. I think a Mafia 1 or 2 style would work best for telling Jack Marston's story post Red Dead. And it would be probably the best way to tell all the cool things you could with him in one game. Because I think I wouldn't want to milk it.
Yeah.
I would want to tell his entire story in one game, and then, which means we would be flashing ahead, much like how Mafia 1 more than 2 does. Mafia 1 does it a lot more than 2. Because Mafia 1 goes from, like, the 20s to the 50s.
Oh, God. It's 30 years.
Because Mafia 1 starts in the I want to say 1920s. It might start earlier than that.
The other thing I've been...
But yeah, you go ahead while I'm looking that up.
I've been considering maybe starting a playthrough of the Divinity series.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we were talking about that. Yeah. Okay, Mafia 1 starts in the 30s. Okay, but still, that's 20 years, because it starts in the 30s, and then it goes all the way to the 50s, which is when, spoilers for a game from 2002 that has a recent enough remake from 2020, but also it's been a few years. But spoilers for that. You die at the end in the 50s. You get shot by by Vito, the main character in Mafia 2. Because that's also a mission in Mafia 2 is when you do that. Apparently they're doing a prequel game next. That's coming out next year. That might be... I'll be interested in that. Because, yeah, they're starting to get away from the Mafia area. Because Mafia 3 is in the 70s. And so you're kind of getting away from telling... It's the problem Red Dead is having. It's like, oh, if we go forward, we can't be Red Dead.
Yep.
And Mafia's having that same issue. It's like, if we go forward, we can't be Mafia.
So we have to go back.
Yeah. But you were saying, yeah, Divinity, because you and I were talking about it. Because Divinity 2, or Divinity Original Sin 2, I should say, because Divinity 2 is an entirely different game. Because Divinity has a weird... I'm going to go on a little bit of a thing with Divinity. Divinity has a weird naming convention. I'm going to go through the games... And we're going to talk about which ones are in which order in the franchise. The first game, Divine Divinity. The second game, Beyond Divinity. The third game, Divinity 2, Eco Draconis, but then the Dragon Knight Saga, which includes all the like extra like cut content and basically director's cut version of it, because that would Divinity. So Divine and Beyond Divinity are both CRPGs in the traditional like isometric style, Diablo, Baldur's Gate style that you would expect, right?
Yeah.
Divinity 2 was their first attempt at doing a like 3D perspective action RPG style game. Mainly because that's what the studio wanted, not what Larry and the studio wanted, but what their publishers wanted.
Mm-hmm.
This is also the reason why Sven will never work with a publisher again. Like why Larian is always going to be an independent studio as long as Sven's in charge. Because that game did not do well. And it's all because of the interfering of publishers going, it should be like this. And ever since then, they've been independent. Divinity Dragon Commander is a prequel, but that's the next game that came out. And that game is the furthest back game in the franchise, but not an RPG. It's a RTS. With RPG elements, but it's an RTS. It's an RTS, but also an FPS and an RPG. All at the same time.
Okay.
Because it's an RTS because of the strategy elements of the game, but then you play as a dragon knight. Because part of the lore is that dragons are people that can transform into dragon. So dragon knights are a thing, and your dragon knight commander, the main character dragon commander, is like the bastard son of the previous emperor, and you're in a war with your siblings. Your half siblings, and so, but you can play as your dragon character who has a jetpack. You're a dragon with a jetpack, and you can actually play as him on the battlefield. So you can do the RTS battle strategy things, but then you can drop in as a dragon and basically go first person shooter mode, shooting fire from at people and flying around the battlefield real quick with the jetpack. And then Original Sin is technically the next game chronologically, but it's also the next game that came out. And that's actually the one I'm playing right now on the channel, Divinity Original Sin.
I should probably clarify that the ones that I'm interested in
are the Original Sin
and
Original Sin 2. Yeah, and so Original Sin 2, which a lot of people now just call Divinity 2, which is...
Yeah, I guess that would be a little confusing because of how this...
Because of the fact that Divinity 2 exists and it's a different game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's nitpicky, though, because Original Sin is, like... It's a reboot of the franchise, but it's not, because all the games are still canon. So, like... It's like a fresh take on the franchise while still not erasing any of the previous games' lore.
Yeah.
And in fact, they build up on the... Because Original Sin 2 is a sequel to all the games. So it takes place after everything. It's the furthest game forward. But the reason that you got interested, though, is because Original Sin 2 specifically, I put up an article where they talked about how it's coming to modern day consoles soon because they got raided by the PEGI board. So the basically the EU's ESRB.
Yeah.
I haven't found... It's not available yet for PS5 because I've been looking. But yeah, and so you and I were talking about maybe we play it together, and then you're like, but PlayStation Plus that I don't have, and I was like, yeah, it does say it requires it to play it online together.
I also did check the prices for Original Sin and Original Sin 2. It's $59.99 for 2, and Original Sin is $39.99.
Yeah, Original Sin 1 is going to be cheaper, and then Original Sin 2, even though you're getting the definitive edition with both of them, even though that Original Sin 2 has the definitive edition, that does not include one piece of DLC that you would have to buy separately, and that's Sir Solus, the squirrel, Sir, what's his name, I mean, it's not a big deal if you don't have him. Sir Laura. which is a squirrel that you can talk to if you have the ability to talk to animals in that. I think it's pet something. But he rides a cat, an undead cat, skeleton cat, named Quarkus.
Mm.
And so, yeah. He's a fun. I have him on the PC version. I don't have it on. Well, I don't have it at all on PlayStation right now. But yeah. Anyhow, is that it? Pretty much.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah. Okay. In that case, let's get into news because we are a little bit. We did rant a little bit further more than I thought we would. So news. Speaking of video games, Star Wars Outlaws. Ubisoft has talked a little bit more about what's going on with like the first major update that's coming out this month, the 21st, because they talked a little bit about some of the stuff that they're focusing on to try to like make sure that the game's quality of life is kind of improved, right?
Yeah.
Kind of create some replay value and also just make it, make the game run smoother for new buyers as well.
Yeah.
So this is quoting one of the developers. First key area of improvement to the game is combat, where we see a real opportunity to add more depth and excitement to the experience, further rewarding your tactics and precision. Our second key area is stealth, which is not only about improving the readability and consistency of enemy detection, but also providing choice in how you want to approach each encounter. Finally, our third key area of focus is centered around the character controls, which means improving the reliability of cover, increasing the responsiveness of climbing and crouching, and generally improving the consistency of the controls overall. Which, yeah, I would say even as somebody who liked the game, those were some minor things that could get in the way sometimes of enjoyment, but not to the point that I just... Like, it wasn't that bad for me, but I know some people where it was that bad. And so, I am glad that they are looking into that. And once again, that update is coming out the 21st of this month, which is also when we get our first piece of DLC, Wild Card, where we'll get to be part of a high-stakes sabacc tournament with Lando. So that's going to be fun. So that's Outlaws news. And sticking to video game news, we'll talk about Jedi Survivor getting a performance upgrade for anybody on the PS5 Pro. Some of the stuff that was improved was visibly higher base resolution in both quality and performance modes. Quality mode retains a 4K resolution and ray traced elements, but is now upscaled from 1800p to 2160p. And performance mode now runs at a higher resolution of 1800p, upscaled from 1200p, and includes ray traced occlusion and reflections while continuing to target 60 FPS. So yeah. So they're making sure performance mode looks better on the Pro console, which makes sense. If you're gonna have a Pro console, there should be some upgrades to games that are noticeable. But yeah, and so I think, according to Star Wars Newsnet, for non-Star Wars fans, you're also getting Marvel Spider-Man 2 has also been announced to be getting an upgrade for the PS5 Pro, as well as the third-party game Survivor. This is what they're talking about. So that shows that not only Sony games are getting this upgrade, but third-party games like Jedi Survivor, which is good. I think it shouldn't just be your first-party consoles getting the upgrades. It should be, or first-party games. It should be all of them. Going into kind of book news. Much like a few weeks ago that we talked about where Audible kind of stealth dropped an audiobook on us. They're doing it again. But this time for the High Republic. So they're doing, and it's a 2-part, so this is the first part coming out. And it's coming out on the 14th, so at least we got a few days notice this time. We got a little bit more notice than last time. Last time it was like, hey, it's here. This time it's, okay, we're getting some, but it's going to be called Seeds of Starlight. It's by George Mann. We love our George Mann written books. It's going to be narrated by Todd Haberkorn. I do like some Todd Haberkorn narration in the Star Wars audiobooks. He's done a good job with the High Republic stuff. Plus a decent, voice actor. But it's going to be about Tep Tep, Kildo, and a new character, Cam Linden, new Padawan, because they released the cover art for it. But once again, that's going to be an Audible original that it's coming out. It's going to focus on taking us back to Irem. So that'll be interesting. We'll get to it. I now have to add that as well as the Padawan Peril or whatever it was called, the Obi-Wan and Anakin one that came out. I have to add that to the schedule for the podcast. Going into movies and television, we got some news from Hollywood Reporter, so reputable news source. Simon Kinberg is working on a Star Wars trilogy. He is producing and writing. Some stuff that Simon Kinberg's more well known for, because I know that's something that I know that I would have to share is he's been a producer on Rebels. He's worked on writing a couple episodes here and there, but he's never like a main story guy.
I see.
As far as non-Star Wars things, he's been a producer on pretty much all the X-Men films. After starting with First Class, I want to say.
All right.
Maybe even further back. And he directed maybe what I think is the worst one. Dark Phoenix. And it was his directorial debut.
All right.
So I have opinions about this man.
Okay.
I think he's a fine producer. I should come out and say that. I think he's really good at producing. I think he's good at that job. It is when he starts to get into the creative positions like writing and directing that I tend to not enjoy the work that he does. Unless there's somebody guiding him. So X-Men, he tended to have a little bit more free reign when it came to writing. He also wrote X-Men Apocalypse, which is a weaker X-Men film as well. And some might say even more boring than Dark Phoenix, depending who you ask. Because I've had people that have said that it's written worse than Dark Phoenix, which I don't know about that, but and then and as for Rebels, his writing on Rebels is fine, but there he's not the guy in charge of it. Usually you had Dave Filoni or some other people above him, right, to kind of be like, hey, this is the story that we're working towards. And so him as the creative force on this trilogy, I am not 100% optimistic, but I am open to see what he does, I should say. I do want to give it a chance and see what it happens from it. One of the things that a lot of people were predicting was, hey, is this episodes 10 through 12? Is this the next Skywalker Saga trilogy? No. That has been officially debunked by Hollywood Reporter, basically going, nope, it's a different trilogy. We don't entirely know when it's going to take place on the Star Wars timeline. We just know that it's different. It's not a continuation of because people were thinking, oh, is it episodes 10 to 12? Oh, is this going to be what the New Jedi Order films become? Because a lot of people were theorizing that maybe the New Jedi Order films now become 10 through 12 trilogy, because the Rey New Jedi Order films. Yeah. A lot of people are thinking, oh, that could now become episodes 10 through 12. No, the New Jedi Order films are still their own thing. This is its own thing. So there's room to see what's going on here. Any particular thoughts? I think it's too early to really have too much of a discussion on it, but
I don't know who this guy is.
Yeah, really. and so until you know what the film's about, yeah. So and that's where I'm at. We know nothing about this film. This is a very interesting but meh news. There's nothing really going on. And the reason people were speculating the New Jedi Order thing was because New Jedi Order just got rid of its writer. So that they have the same director, but they don't have a writer right now attached to it. So people are thinking, oh, Simon Kinberg came in to write that, but that's been debunked.
Yeah.
Keeping in movie and TV news, Andor season 2. unintentionally got its release date dropped by Disney Plus because so D23 Brazil is happening today, and more than likely they're going to talk about Andor, but some people on social media have spotted that their Disney Plus account so like the sliders that show you what's coming up, like the new shows coming out, or as well as like shows that just came out, their banners. It now showed Andor season 2's release date, and probably we'll get an official press release today about that, about like officially hearing that what it is. So I feel confident enough to go with this and go, yes, this is probably correct information and not just a leak, because normally we try not to talk about things that aren't substantiated by an official source. In this case, we can though. Andor season 2, April 22nd next year. So that's not too bad of a wait, because Skeleton Crew's coming out later this month, like in a couple weeks. And so, right, if I remember correctly?
Yeah. Should be soon.
Yeah, it's like it's December. Sorry, December 3rd.
Okay.
So that's still not that far of a wait. So and then assuming it's like a 7 to 8 episode run, as Disney tries, they basically do with their Star Wars Disney Plus shows, except for Andor. Andor had 12, and Andor I think is still getting the same number of episodes again. If they keep Skeleton Crew short, that still takes it into like January, maybe a little bit of early February. And then that leaves room for maybe an animated project to stealth drop, because we haven't heard anything about an anime. Strangely enough, we haven't heard about the next main animated show yet since Bad Batch ended. I'm surprised we haven't heard about that yet. Maybe D23 Brazil drops some knowledge on that, but I doubt it.
Maybe not. Who knows?
And so
maybe the animators are like, we're gonna.
Well, we know they're working on something. They just haven't said.
We're working on stuff, but for right now, it's nap time. Leave us alone.
But that will give like a couple months between finishing Skeleton Crew and then Andor. So that fits, I think, the release date windows, and how they tend to, especially because it seems that Lucasfilm, especially with how Disney has like said, hey, let's slow down production of shows and movies on the Marvel and Star Wars end. With that slowdown, we're starting to see that on the Disney Plus end of Star Wars shows, where we're getting maybe 1 to 2 shows a year rather than what we were getting, which was like 3 almost.
Yeah.
So that kind of makes sense. Maybe we'll see. So I'd say if April 22nd is when we're getting Andor, then that might be the only Star Wars show we get next year.
Yeah.
Because I was originally thinking, well, maybe Ahsoka November, but no. Because that's probably by the time they're finishing filming Ahsoka. And we're probably not going to get Ahsoka till 2026 for Season 2.
Yep.
And then I think that's it. Because no new Mando season because they're working on a film. Which that's coming out next year. So, right, that's 2025, right? Yeah. That they, for Mandalorian and Grogu. 2026. Okay. May 2026. Okay. So then yeah, that does leave an empty space for Star Wars in November, December-ish area. And then of course in animation we still have the Young Jedi Adventures going on. So I imagine Season 3, once Season 2's done, Season 3 will happen, which we'll talk about Season 2 when it's done. This time I'm waiting till it's actually done, and I'm not putting up with the half-season bullshit that we did last time for it. Where we started it, and then they were like, oh yeah, now we're doing episodes of the week. It's like... So yeah, and Season 2 is still going. So... That's it for news, though.
Yeah.
Does that release date kind of excite you though for Andor? I mean, was that one of your, I feel like that was one of your favorite projects.
I like everything that goes on with Cassian, I'm still mad about the fact that no one reads the goddamn family schedule in the Mothma household.
Yeah. But I feel like it's a very Seth enjoyable show because it's got that spy thing going and the political intrigue shit. Like that's a good that's a Seth show if ever.
Yeah. I'm like, I like most of the show except for.
But that's just family. That's the family drama dynamic.
And
it's only going to get worse with season 2.
I know it's only going to get worse, but I'm just so done with that kind of shit.
On the good news, though, season 2, we're finally getting K2SO. At some point. As part of that. But yeah. Alright, well then let's get into our main topic today, which is Mace Windu the Glass Abyss.
Whew, yeah, this was a very fun...
Spoilers
for this entire damn book.
I love... Okay. So does this give you an entirely new perspective on Mace?
Yeah, it helps humanize him a lot.
Because I think this is something that fans kind of forget. Especially, and more so with Legends fans. Like, I expect you to not know this. But, like, with Legend fans that have transferred over, who are like, Mace Windu is so serious all the time, and he's so stoic, and that's why we don't like him. It's like, he's stoic because he's actually the most emotional Jedi ever. Actually. He actually has way more problems with his emotions than even Anakin. It's just Mace has learned to regulate them. He has such problems with his emotions that he had to create an entire new combat style to regulate them. And this book, like, recanonizes that. Like, because they're like, oh yeah, he has his combat style that uses all of his emotions and he puts that in there. And it's like, oh, okay, so recontextualizing that, okay, this is why Mace fights the way he does.
Yep.
And why, like, he's so good at balancing his stoic nature with that. It's because he's doing his damn best.
Yeah.
I also really like seeing him kind of not flirt, really, but, like, fall for somebody almost. Like, where he's like, oh, damn, she cute, though.
Yep.
Mace Windu, like, I like seeing her smile. I'm like, damn, buddy, you bad for her, huh?
You got it. You found one, didn't you?
But once again, because Mace is really good at regulating, he never fully acts on it. But I also think this is a good story for once again showing the failings of the Republic and the Jedi during this time. Because this is a case of Mace would not be doing this, any of this, what's going on in this book, if Qui-Gon, who hadn't died and been like, hey, this is my last wish for you to get involved with these people in the Outer Rim that need help.
Yeah. And Mace is like, God damn it. Okay, fine.
And all because they lost a gambling bet. I think that's the funniest part. It's like, oh, we lost at some gambling, and it's like, he would have won, and like...
Yeah, it was like a fucking Dejaric chess tournament.
Because it was him and...
It's just him and Qui-Gon.
Well, there was some other Jedi that had mentioned they played against Qui-Gon and lost, and... Was it Kit?
Kit Fisto is there, but Kit Fisto wasn't a part of that tournament. Okay. Like... Obi-Wan is there. Kit Fisto is there when not Qui-Gon, when Mace gets Qui-Gon's last thing, and he's like, this motherfucker.
Yeah, and Kit's like
still wanting, even Kit's when he's dead, he's still wanting.
And Kit's like, yeah, he's a pretty good he was a pretty good gambler. He knew how to outpace all of us on that. And Obi-Wan's like, oh, okay. Like, Obi-Wan kind of didn't know all this information. And then Mace is like, yep, and now I gotta do his last wish.
Yep.
Which is, go investigate this murder, essentially, like, and the problems that are going on with these people.
Yep.
Because Qui-Gon almost got murdered by a crime lord.
Yeah.
And then Mace finds himself getting stuck in the middle of a feuding crime syndicate, like, war that's almost breaking out, but right now they're on, like, a very, like, tenuous at best treaty to not, like, fight each other. And so, like, Mace takes advantage of this by going, well, I'm going to pretend to be, like, a gun for hire, and I'm going to work for both sides.
Rim runner, new occupation, new occupational term.
Yeah, which we also see the continued canonization of Mace Windu's acting abilities.
Yeah,
because the Obi-Wan and Anakin choose your destiny book started that joke of Mace Windu's actually a pretty decent actor. He's not a great actor, but he's a decent actor.
Yeah,
and this kind of continues that.
Yep.
Which is why Mace is the one that I think it's part of why Qui-Gon was like, Mace should be the one to do this, because he could go undercover pretty well.
Yeah.
I love the name he gives himself, though.
Solver. It's a good name.
But also, Mace Windu got some jokes.
Yeah, he does.
This entire... Because, like, one of the...
it's great to see him fucking making jokes.
Because one of the crime...
Because we never get to see him make jokes.
Because one of the crime lords, her whole thing is that she has, like, 20-plus children. And so, like, they're all numbered. And then Mace kills one of them. And another one walks up to him, and he's like... He makes the joke about, oh, yeah, are you the one that I'm gonna kill next, or...
Oh, God.
Because he makes jokes about, not keeping up with which one is what number.
Yeah. I think the highest that we see number-wise from Sibling is, like, 247 or something.
Oh, yeah, going upwards, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the lowest... is 11.
Is 4.
4, that's right, yeah. Which Mace theorizes is, like, whenever they die, they do get bumped up a number. So, like, 4 probably started off a higher number at some point.
Yeah.
But, yeah, like...
It's also weird, though, because 4, at a certain point, one sibling is killed. Spoilers for this book, by the way. One of the major crime bosses gets killed about halfway through.
Yeah.
He's like, I am the oldest, so now I'm gonna go and...
I also like the other crime lord, the twin.
The Chulok?
Yeah. And in the audiobook, it's really cool what they do. They do, like, the echoey voice, because it's two voices at the same time. And so they do that, and...
Like, Chulok is a great antagonist.
Chulok is great, and then I love the heist and the results of that, because Mace, playing both sides, convinces Sibylline to be like, hey, what if we commit a heist, but we make sure not to kill anybody? We go in as stealthily as possible, so that way, and we can basically lay the blame on Chulin's, like, allies, and make him question whether or not the people who were in charge of the train stole from him.
Yeah.
And it works, too.
Yep.
Like, because Chulin brings in, like, his advisor, and is like, and I think it's a funny scene, where Chulin's like, so what do you think happened? And the advisor's like, either we got robbed by, like, they provide all these options, and eventually Chulin's like, or we got robbed by Sibylline, and who we're in a peace treaty with, and the advisor's like, no, that one seems, like, he waits a second, he's scared, the man is scared.
He's like, this guy's gonna kill me if I give the wrong answer.
And then he's like, I don't think so, and he's like, good answer, because I was testing you. If you had said that the person that we're in an alliance with betrayed us, when, in fact, they don't really usually have the ability to do this type of maneuver, I would have killed you.
Yep. Also, I know how you call them twins, but Chew and Locke are not twins.
No, but you know what I mean. Like, they're like, yeah.
They are, and I'll put this nicely, an amalgamation.
Yeah. You know what I mean, though. Like,
Yeah.
I was just like, yeah. We are about to go into a break for the Twitch, but we'll kind of
Yeah.
keep chit-chatting about whatever.
So this is kind of like, I did actually end up reading the afterword of this.
Yeah.
This is the plot of Yojimbo.
Yeah, Stephen Barnes is a really good... So, I got to talk with Harith a little bit about Stephen Barnes in this book.
Yeah.
And the interesting things are, like, Stephen Barnes is a really good... Like, he's been in the sci-fi writing for a long time. Like, this is a guy who wrote episodes of Outer Limits back in the day. You know, so old school sci-fi, right? And he's written in the Star Wars universe one other time during the Legends era, so this is kind of a return for him. But one, he's not a big prequels fan, which is very funny that he actually writes prequel era stuff really well, because the other book is a Clone Wars era book,
Boy.
the Cestus Deception. So he writes them really well despite not liking this era. And then, secondly, though, he said, one, he's worked with Samuel L. Jackson before, so he owed it to him to write a good Mace Windu book. And I think
It's great.
I think he passed on doing that. He wrote a really good character study. And then the other thing is, he said he wanted to just write a good sci-fi story first. Not a Star Wars story, a sci-fi story. And I think he succeeded. I think Stephen Barnes completely succeeded at writing a good sci-fi story. A good sci-fi story that also became a good Star Wars story because of that. And so, I think he mentioned that he was potentially working on a script for Lucasfilm. And so, if that is true, and if that is something that he is working on, I am watching his career with great interest, as Palpatine would say, because I mean, he's already proven himself over and over in the field of screen, because he's a screenwriter first, and so, like, because I can pull up his wiki. Yeah, he wrote Outer Limits. He's written some Stargate SG-1. He's written some Andromeda. And yeah, he wrote the Cestus Deception for Star Wars. I mean, he's got a good bibliography and writing credits throughout, right? So if he is writing a Star Wars script or anything, like, I could see this. I know Donald Glover is heavily involved with the Lando film at this point, and I can't remember who else is involved majorly at the. But if they don't really have a like, let me double check, because I know there's a writer attached. If not, though, I would love to see Stephen Barnes work on a Lando thing, because I think he could provide some really good context for a character like that.
Also, that breaks over to those who...
Yeah, ad breaks over for
back.
Twitch. Welcome back, Twitch viewers. I'm trying to figure out who's involved. This is kind of shorter on our discussion of it, because, like, it's just such a good book that I almost don't want to spoil too much.
Yeah.
Like, this is a case... Stephen Glover and Donald Glover are writing it together. Okay, so the brothers are writing it, so... So I guess they don't really need a writer, but, I mean...
So, yeah. Apart from Mace, does anyone else in this book stick out to you as a...
I mean, the villains are so good.
They are. I like Maya 12.
Oh, yeah. For somebody who doesn't like...
Go on, say it.
You don't like droids or cyborgs or any of that nonsense, yet you like... It's a good character. They're a good character,
They're
though.
really well written.
Yeah. And honestly, all the characters in this book are really well done, and you care for the problem that's going on, and, like, especially when we get some, like, information about Qui-Gon and how he tried his best.
Yeah, and Qui-Gon basically. It was like, I gotta fucking leave, man. I can't deal with this.
Yeah, because basically they put a hit on him, and then they were like, all right, if you ain't out of town. Essentially.
Pretty much.
But I almost don't want to ruin anything else with this book.
Oh, God.
Is there anything you want to talk about before we...
It's a good... I feel bad because...
You're like me, you don't want to spoil it.
Yeah, on the other... It's a good book. I actually sent a copy of this book to Chris.
Oh, yeah, Chris would probably like it.
Yeah. And I remember explaining to him, like, what the setup for it was. I'm like, yes, there's this... Spoilers, this planet has been hit with radiation and solar flares mad hard to the point that its surface is pretty much glass. And there's these weird slug animals that aren't slug animals that are also made of glass.
Did that sell him?
And then I explained, like, also there's a castle, and in that castle and the area around it are a bunch of crime, and a gang war is going on, and Mace has to figure that shit out.
Yeah, I like the Great Wheel as a location as well.
It's a fun place to think about too, going because it's like vertical, right?
Mm-hmm. And like,
and it's not like
'cause Mace...
Coruscant where there's so many that you can't count. They're like, no, 10.
But yeah, also Mace like figures out how to like navigate it too. He's like, oh, if I just keep going one direction, I'll get where I'm going.
Mm-hmm.
So like, but like Mace has to figure that out. Like he's like, oh, otherwise you could get lost here.
Yeah, and him figuring out how like to deal with a bunch of other things, like the fact that first 3 levels, there's radiation there that kills you.
Doesn't stop us from kicking the poor into there though.
Yep.
In fact, that's what we do. We put them there.
And there's level 10. Level 10's a great fun time.
It's also kind of like I forget the name of that director, but the guy who did Chappie and District 9. It's kind of like his other film Elysium.
Yeah.
Where where the richer you are, the higher up you are, and away from the pollution.
Mm-hmm. It gets a little bit of Last of Us-y towards the end.
A little bit. But not in a bad way.
Not
in a
bad
good way.
In a good way.
I suggest this book. This is honestly a solid 9.
Yeah.
Solid 9. I'm not even gonna debate that thought. Are you considering?
Considering
Considering a 10?
I'm considering a 10.
I might join you if you do, because it's such a good book.
I think I am gonna give it a 10.
Yeah, this is a 10. You know what?
First Mace Windu book with a 10.
This is a 10. Yeah, I agree. It's such a good book. If you're a Star Wars fan, if you're a prequel fan, if you're a sci-fi fan, if you just like sci-fi and you don't really care about Star Wars, this book is still good. And so, highly suggest it. I don't think we're going to spoil anything else, honestly, because this is you need to read this book for yourself.
For real, go read it by yourself.
The audiobook is really good, so even if you don't like to sit and read, if you're like me and you like to be able to do things and listen at the same time, do it. It's a good listen as well. It's really well done.
I will say, for me, one of the... this is Seth personally found this funny. So when Mace goes and actually meets one of the gang leaders, sibling, the one with a bunch of children,
mm-hmm.
And he's talking with her, and he's like, hey, so how does that work, having that many kids? How does that work? And she goes and she explains, oh yeah, we did that for 5 days, and then I killed him. And
and then it's like, and then she's like flirting with him at the same time.
And Mace goes, he should have brought flowers. And I'm like, Mace undercover as like a mercenary is great.
But I also think that's just Mace. I think that's just Mace.
It's like, now we can see him like in a weird way off the clock.
Yeah.
Because we always see him when he's like, I have important shit to do right now.
And in this case, he still has important shit, but he has to pretend he doesn't.
Yeah.
And so, but I also think that's just Mace's humor in reality. Like, that's not, like, he's not pretending to have that humor. I think that just is his humor. But I love it, yeah. But it reads weird because, like, we get Mace's perspective of that. It's where it's like, is she hitting on me? Or is she threatening me? Which is it?
Yeah.
Where, like, Mace can't tell what exactly.
Also, I thought that Worm was the problem. Because I thought...
That goddamn worm.
Yeah, I thought that you know what I mean.
Yep. Yeah. But we it's a fun journey. 10 out of 10 from both of us. Check it out. Mace Windu, The Glass Abyss. The reason we're kind of rushing also is because we're a little bit... You got to head out soon, so...
Yeah.
I think we're going to call it for today.
Sorry.
But, I mean, that's also, I feel like, all we want to talk about, because we don't... The book is so good, we do want to talk more about it, but we don't want to spoil it for you guys.
Because it's been out for, like, what, 2 weeks now?
It's been out... Something like that, yeah. I can double check.
It's a pretty new...
It's a very recent... August 6th.
August 6th. Okay.
So
it's a little bit more...
A little over than a month, but also recent enough where I'd be like, I don't want to ruin it for people who haven't read it.
Yeah.
Because this is a case... Like, I know normally we do review books like this immediately, but most of the time they aren't 10 out of 10s where we're like, you need to read this. A lot of them are, hey, we think you should read this, but a lot of the time it's not, you need to read this. This is a case of you need to read this. Because I think I've only put really one other 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
And that was Fallen Star for me, right? I think that's...
Yeah. I tend to be a lot more, like, for the Ronin verse, I give a lot more...
Yeah, you're more liberal with your 10 out of 10s than me. But yeah, so thank you all for watching today's episode of Escape Reality Star Wars Talk. I've been your host, Caleb. Be sure to like, comment, follow, and subscribe to us. You can find us at Escape Reality Films on YouTube, Twitch, Kick, and TikTok. You can also show your support for us by joining our Patreon, which is at Escape Reality Films. Shout out to Jennifer Brantley. Woo! There you can watch our YouTube content before it's publicly available. Also be sure to check out our Discord, which is also linked wherever you are watching, so you become a part of our community. In fact, we are almost done with My Little Pony Season 2. Mm-hmm. We are starting this week. We are starting Season 2 of Kevin Can Fuck Himself, which is exciting because Season 1 ended on a what the fuck note. And so we're like, what's gonna happen? And then, of course, Highlander, we're almost done with... We're, like, getting near the end of Season 3. So... And then maybe we have a crazy day where we watch Berserk. We haven't done officially a Seth day. Like, we haven't put it in the Thursdays, but...
time slot.
But we are just like, if we find a day and we just happen to do it,
Yep.
It's a Seth day. Surprise Seth day, because he's here.
Surprise.
And then, on top of that, once Arcane Season 2 is done, we will, on a Brit day, watch all of Season 2. It's just, which that probably won't be till the end of December, because I looked at the release date for the episodes, and that's kind of, they're doing, like, chunks. So they're doing, like, Part 1, Part 2, and Part 3 of the season, and then that's how they're doing it. And so, Britt and I... Basically, you were there. We discussed. We'll wait till Season 2 is done before making a Brit Day Arcane. Also, though, yeah, that's pretty much it for me. Speaking, we talked about Keontae and his games earlier. Do you want to go ahead and kind of shout out his channel?
Yeah. So. You can go and catch up on some friends of ours over at Steam_Dungeon on YouTube at Trials of Nebu. They're on hiatus at the moment, but it's a perfect chance to catch up on the backlog.
Yep, now's the time to, if you want to be a new fan, watch them while the new episodes are coming out, because then you can play catch up. But yeah, once again, thank you all for watching. Join us next week where we will be making a push to catch up on comic books, finally. We are going to talk The High Republic Phase 3, Volume 2, The Hunted, talking The High Republic Adventures Phase 3, Volume 2, Daughter of No World, and one that I know Seth has been excited about, The High Republic Adventures Saber for Hire.
Woo!
I have spoken.
Y'all be safe out there.
Bye.